Shadows crawl and nightmares call. Brace yourselves, one and all. It's the Scare Factor Podcast, Season 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Scare Factor Podcast, Something Stupid Joke. My name is Bryan of Team Skelegore in Central New York. Joining me once again this week, Vince of Team Skulleton Crew in Atlanta, Georgia. Vince, how are you?
I am doing well this week. And how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well this week. How's your summer vacation going so far?
My summer vacation has been very, very quick, because it's been seemingly quick. 3 weeks of remodeling, which is done, and it seems like life is starting to get back to normal a little bit now.
I feel that. Yeah, I saw the pictures of the bathroom remodel. It looks amazing. The new shower is massive, right? Like so much room for activities.
Like showering and cleaning.
I mean, you could fit a whole basketball team in there.
It's maybe not quite that big, but it certainly is larger than the small square that I had. My shower before this was like a 3.5 by 3.5 foot square, and it was right behind where the bathroom door opens. So, tight little dark corner, basically.
Yeah, that's the layout of the old bathroom just looked so weird. There was like this awkward space next to the bathtub. I don't know what it's for. Maybe put a chair in that spot. Who knows?
That's the mid 80s for you, I guess.
Yeah. That's when you bathed with an audience.
Yes.
So this week, here's the thing, folks. We do a lot of bitching and moaning on this show. We hear you. We know. I mean, we had front row seats for it. We've known for a long time. So, because we normally do that, this week we are going to talk about positive things about the haunt industry and haunts that we really, really love, and haunts that we think are doing it right in various ways. So, and don't worry, next week we'll be back on the hater train. We'll be back to complaining about what's wrong with the industry and what haunts are fucking up and where they need to improve. All that. Don't worry, it's short break. Okay, we need some positivity around here.
Yeah, not quite to that extreme, right? We are haunt enthusiasts.
Yes, I mean, on a certain level, I feel like we do need to show, like, why are we involved in this industry, right? Because all we seem to do is piss and moan about everything. So yeah, we need to we really need to talk about some positive things from time to time. So
I'm with you.
Yeah, so let's start this off with some haunts where maybe they have some areas where they do need some improvement, but like here are some haunts that we think are doing a few things just better than anybody else, right? They've got a few things just really nailed down. And the first one, I think, is Haunted Overload in New Hampshire. And what they're doing right is the atmosphere starts immediately, right? You get out of the car and it's dark and you're on a farm and you see where the woods are. You see where the attraction is. And when you walk down there and you get in line, everybody has seen the photos of the massive wooden statues that they've built. And those are totally custom. They're all hand built. They're incredible, right? And they're super photogenic. And that vibe just keeps going all the way throughout the haunt. It's a really long trail, which is an indoor-outdoor hybrid sort of situation, which I think helps them tell a story. It's a lot of outdoor trails are like just only outside, and then you have a lot of haunts that are only indoors, right? You're only telling a small portion of a story by doing that. So Haunted Overload says, hey, we're going to make you go into buildings and out of buildings and all over, and it tells a much broader story, and I think that's really helping them. Throughout the trail, they have a really great variation in elevation. So like you'll walk on bridges and you walk over the trail where like other people are walking below you, and so you're up and you're down, and there's a really great use in ambiance variation.
I always like that hybrid setup where you're spending part of your time outside, you're spending part of your time inside small buildings, maybe. It just kind of breaks things up. It increases the interest in what you're.
Right. It helps tell the story better, right? Because, like,
Mhm.
I mean, how many stories could you tell where it's like you're only outdoors? I mean, there's probably a few, but it helps you. It gives you more opportunities to change things up, and it gives you reasons to say, well, the story is you're walking through the woods and you're being chased by this monster, and like, oh look, a house in the middle of the woods, and well, mysteriously there's no lights on, but who cares? There's a monster after me, right? It gives you these reasons, and I mean the buildings that they have along the trail, they're all well built. They all look great on the inside. It's the build quality is just so consistent throughout. It's really well done, I think, in that aspect. And I think they're doing a really great job there. They have some room for improvement, absolutely. What Haunt doesn't, but for those reasons, I think Haunted Overload is checking at least a few boxes for me. What about you, Vince? What do you like? What haunts do you think are doing some cool shit?
I was prefacing saying earlier to you that the bad thing about this is we're kind of limited to haunts that we know or haunts that we've been to. So, certainly not trying to exclude anybody out there. Um, so, a couple of years ago, we went to several haunts in the Nashville area. There was something that stood out about Devil's Dungeon and Slaughterhouse, and they're kind of similar things to me. I mean, it's not the only cool thing about either of those haunted houses, but it's the fact that they let you get lost and wander around a little bit. They both have areas where you can pick this door, you can pick that door, you go through, you follow the little pathway, and it leads you right back where you started. With Devil's Dungeon, I mean, the best we could figure out is they must have had at least 2 rooms that were made identically, and they had maybe 3 doors to choose from. I can just remember there was a clown in there making fun of us. But you pick a door, you go through this dark area, and you come into looks like the room that you were just in. And you pick a different door and go through there, and it looks like you come back into the room that you were just in. And so that was a neat design. They kind of let us wander back and forth like that for a few minutes, and then kind of helped us out in getting out of the haunt. In Slaughterhouse, they did something similar. I remember it was like a ship. You were in like a wooden ship area, and there were lots of doors, areas for you to wander around and explore. And you try to go through this door, and you wind up coming right back into the area that you were in before. They played it up great with their actors, kind of giving you miscues now and then and laughing at you, and eventually they help you again find the right pathway to get on into the next scene. But just to have so few haunts that I've ever been to have that kind of space and that kind of time to let you wander around and spin your wheels, because they're trying to push everybody through and follow the maze and exit at the end. So those were kind of standout, unique things for me about those two, Devil's Dungeon and Slaughterhouse, both of those in the Nashville area.
I really love the concept of, this Scooby-Doo-esque, going in a door, coming out another, and like, just finding yourself in the same room over and over, right? This sort of temporal loop. I love the concept of doing that, and I'm doing the math in my head of like, how big of a building would I need, and how realistically, how could I do this to where I could force people through the same room over and over and over until they choose the correct door.
Right.
The answer is I can't find a building big enough.
I guess some of it depends on your crowd size too. Little unique thing about Slaughterhouse. It was built in an old movie theater, like multiple You can go to, 5 different theaters inside one complex. Built inside there, and I know when we went in there, I kept thinking, "Am I going to feel sloped floors and things like that?" But I think they made use of that a little bit in the haunt.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's the elevation change there, that would make sense. So in the Detroit area, there's, everybody knows about Eloise, and I was really having a hard time choosing between Eloise and Hush. And Eloise, I think, is doing a lot of things well, but it's kind of the obvious answer here, right? Hush, on the other hand, they're also in the Detroit area. I think that they are doing some things extremely well. One of the things is, as soon as you walk in the door, the opening set for your main queue before you go into the first attraction, the entire area around you is themed like Bourbon Street in New Orleans, right? And it's so detailed, and it's really, really well done. And you have all these characters around that, they all tie into that Bourbon Street sort of theme. You have the mayor, and there's like live performers. So there's like a burlesque show that happens there, right? Because what Hush also has they call them hidden bars. They're not really hidden, right? There's very obvious signs like, hey, you got the bar pass, go this way. So they're not super hidden, but they do have these bars, and the bars are all themed, right? So the very first bar when you first go in is themed to like Bourbon Street. It's like you're in a bar on Bourbon Street. And so like while you're having your drink, you can watch this burlesque show that's going on. And it's like, I shot some video there, and it's like, I don't think that I could show that part on YouTube. It was a little risque. But I mean, that's one of the things that I think they're doing well, is they're not shying away from things that are not super family friendly, right? A lot of haunts were like, yeah, we show blood and gore, whatever. Like, how many haunts are showing nudity or, close to nudity? Not that many, not of real people anyway. There's a lot of things that a lot of haunts just won't show, but, Hush didn't seem to have any problem showing, this rather attractive woman doing a burlesque show. And then all the way throughout the rest of the haunt, the other bars are all themed to the other attractions. So there's like another one that is, I think it's supposed to be like Yeti themed, right? You're supposed to be in the Himalayas looking for the Yeti because there's like a base camp, and you go there's like a tent with like, seating and stuff in there after you've gotten your drink. And there's like a map, and it's telling you a story about like, oh, we went here and we couldn't find the Yeti there. And, there's like clues that like the search party before you probably did find the Yeti, and they got gobbled up by the Yeti or something. So, that was really cool. And then the last bar was all Frankenstein themed. It was called Bolt and Beaker was the name of the bar. And maybe it's changed since I went. That was a few years ago. But, it was like, it was all Frankenstein themed, right? Even the drinks. So the drinks in each bar are all themed to the bar that they're in. So like the Bourbon Street one, I forget what the drinks were called, but they were like pretty typical mixed drinks. And then in the second one, the Yeti one, where you're in when you're in the Alps or the Himalayas or wherever, they're all like themed to that. They had names, and I want to say one of them was like, Frozen something or something to that effect. Right. And like all the drinks were obviously very good.
What I picture when you're talking about Yeti and the Frozen bar and all that? I'm picturing like the ice bar that you can go to. Where is that?
That's cool. I know what you're talking about. It's in Quebec. Yeah, it's in Canada. Yeah, like, and that's kind of what they were going for, I think. Obviously, like, you can't do that indoors, especially in a haunt, right? Because, like, as we've discussed on the show before, haunts are hot and sweaty places. But, like, yeah, I mean, the aesthetic was there. It was like, they made it look like there was snow and ice on surfaces and things like that. I really love that, right? Sure, their midway, or I guess what they're calling their midway, could use some work, but like that part of it, oh man, those bars were super cool.
That's pretty unique given my haunt experience.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. And it was like, I mean, it was an upcharge, but, it came with one drink at every bar. So, it was fun. I liked it. What else you got, Vince?
In the little town of, oh, I guess it's not that little, but Oxford, Alabama, there's a unique haunt called the Territorium. And basically, they take over this area in downtown Oxford, and it's like a full-blown, well, not quite full-blown, but certainly a carnival atmosphere. You go there, you can ride a Ferris wheel. You can play some carnival games. They've got movies showing on a cool screen there. But one of the most unique things that they have is one of the original dark rides. The building that houses their walk-through haunt, half of it is the haunted house. The other half is a salvaged haunted castle dark ride from Panama City Beach. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, so I did a little research on this dark ride, and so when it existed at Miracle Strip Amusement Park in PCB, it was called the Haunted Castle, and so the Haunted Castle was built in 1965 by probably the greatest dark ride designer known to the amusement industry, Bill Tracy. And so in my reading, I found that the Haunted Castle was a campy haunted house ride shaped like a castle with a dead tree outside it that ran two-seater cars through a maze of track, showing off several morbid attractions. The electrocution of a dummy inmate, dismemberment, spiders, and many blacklight effects. The ride apparently had a second floor with a breakaway girder as the cars passed over that was visible from the outside, so it gave people waiting in line a little bit of fright too. It originally had a dragon facade and a clock with a 13 hand. It was demolished in September of 2009, and then a group of anonymous enthusiasts purchased the elements of the ride and moved them to a location where they were able to recreate the dark ride and run it for annual Halloween events. And so that same group, at the time that this Wikipedia entry was written, they said that the same group was in the process of selling it to a party in Oxford, Alabama, known as the Territorium. So it sounds to me like they went through with the sale since they've got it.
Yes, indeed.
And so, it'll have a more permanent seasonal setup. And so when it was at Miracle Strip, it would also have been used for their annual Christmas attractions. And it was known as Santa's Wonderland of Lights and Amusements. So very cool piece of history there at the Territorium.
Yeah, there were no Santa remnants when I saw it or rode the ride, but it's fairly unique. When you get to the indoor part of the queue line, you can see, and maybe that's the part where you can see the car going by on the track. You can see it in operation while you're waiting to either get on that ride or go into the haunt.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love the fact that, one, not only an original Bill Tracy ride has been restored, because there's really not many of them left in operation today. But two, that they've restored it really to its full glory, right? It's got the second floor, thing with the breakaway girder, all that fun stuff. I love that it's, pieces of history like that are still standing. And a lot of times with the amusement industry, when you talk about this was built in the 1940s or something, it's usually a roller coaster that was it was built in the right place and it was taken care of very well, right? Think Comet at Hershey Park, something like that, where it was built a very long time ago. I want to say Comet at Hershey was built in 20s or 30s. It was built when Milton Hershey first opened the park. And so, it's been very well taken care of. So, it's still standing today. You can still ride it, and it's a really cool piece of history. But flat rides, like dark rides, haunted mansions, whatever, those generally don't stand the test of time, right? Because a lot of times what happens is they're built for traveling carnivals, fair shows, that sort of thing, and so the years of wear and tear on them just eat away at all the components, and they get a lot harder to restore. And truth be told, there's not many people out there that can restore them. I know there's one guy on YouTube that he's been involved in the amusement industry for God knows how long. Pete Rondeau, for those who are in the know here, he's got a series on his channel where he's restoring a carnival ride, but nothing to the extent of the Haunted Castle here.
I think just for that sheer uniqueness, folks who have that sense of history or that sense of nostalgia, they want to go back and recapture that. Maybe I can just vaguely remember going to a park when I was young, and I think they had a ride like this, a dark ride. So get to relive a little bit of that if you visit the Territorium in October.
Absolutely, that sounds like it'll be if I'm ever in that part of the country, I'll definitely want to take a stop by there. So moving on from haunts that have a couple of cool or unique things, I want to take a moment to talk about the industry, right? Because there's a lot of parts of this industry that probably need some improvements. That stuff aside, let's talk about what is actually going well in the industry. What do we actually like about this industry, right? Because surely we must like something, otherwise we wouldn't be involved with it.
Exactly.
For me, like one of the biggest things is the camaraderie, right? When you work for a haunt, or even when you're involved in the haunted attraction industry in really any capacity, you're going to start forming personal relationships with people, whether that be with your direct colleagues, say, those of us at the Scare Factor, right? I would say we're all friends to an extent. We're not all best friends, and some of us have never even met in real life. I've never met Vince in real life. He's a figment of my imagination for all I know. He's not real. It's AI. It's been AI the whole time. It's just the Bryan show. No, but it's we've kind of developed this camaraderie, and when you work in a haunt, right, you become friends with the people that you're working at that haunt with. As reviewers, we build friendships with owners and actors at the haunts that we review. And so this is one of those things that, for me, I love the sense of camaraderie that comes with, like, hey, we all love this one thing, and we can all talk for hours and hours and hours and hours about this thing. There is no end to the conversation about haunts and spooky shit and just like cool shit that we've seen. Like I went to East Coast Hunters Convention this year in 2025, and I ran into a couple of haunters that I know, right? One of the haunts that I review regularly, they were the ones who told me, like, oh, hey, you should go to this convention. So I knew they would be there. But, the crew from the haunt I used to work at was there. They were on the Friday tour where we went to Hershey, and I got out of my car and I'm like, is that Rick? Rick, what's going on, man? We just, we spent a while just chatting, catching up. And
it's like old home week.
Yeah. It was really fun. You run into people that, you've met through this industry. And it's like, wow, this is cool. All these people that I enjoy being around, like, we all get to go do this thing that we all love together.
Right. Oh, well, part of it, I think, is the big industry, but it's kind of a small crowd. I would say that I have been to four, maybe five trade shows, and come out knowing a lot of people as a result of that. So, going to a new trade show, I'm probably going to run into somebody that I know, just as a result of that.
Yeah, and it's going to happen with a lot of industries too. No matter what industry you work in, if you go to trade shows and you travel around and you meet other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, you're going to encounter them over and over again, throughout your career. And so the haunt industry is no different in that sense, but it's different when it's like, Vince, you're a teacher, so, I'm sure that you've been to some sort of, big teaching conference, right? And so, you meet people from like other schools and other states, and, you see them and you're like, oh, hey, it's great. And you catch up or whatever. And, maybe there are things that have happened in education as a whole that you can talk about and commiserate with each other on, but it's not the same as like when haunters that get together and we're like, let's go do some really fun shit together. Like that's what brings us together is our love of like spooky, fun shit.
Other industry trends that that we're seeing more and more of, I think, are a lot of haunts expanding their midway section and making it a place where you might hang out for the evening rather than just go through the haunt, and then drive away and go home. So they're starting to include food trucks, and some have live music. And I've even seen free karaoke with spooky music done at haunts for entertainment. So besides going through the haunts, you've got things to do. You can people watch and make it more, make the trip to the haunt a little more worth your time rather than just hitting the haunt and going home.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like that. I like when a haunt has a good midway. Hey, keep me on site, keep me spending money, because I probably will. If you have games, if you have rides, we were just talking about Territorium, and they have a dark ride, but that's part of their haunt. I was looking at the website, they also have a Ferris wheel, and they have games and stuff. Keep me there, I'll spend money, because hey, that's fun. Yeah, I like when a haunt has a really good midway. Something kind of along the lines of the camaraderie for me is the inclusion of others, right? Is the inclusion of everybody, no matter who you are, who you love, no matter, the inclusion of the LGBTQ community is just, it's so huge for me. Hunters Against Hate has done so much work in, fostering that inclusion, and they run their own conventions and trade shows, whatever. They run their own events and stuff where people get together and they get to, help support businesses that, share the same vision as Hunters Against Hate. And not only that, but they're all coming together because hey, we're all about the haunted attraction industry, and we're about, this inclusion. And I think that it's one of the very few industries where you would be really hard pressed to find, bigots, especially towards LGBTQ people. It's, take any other industry in the world. There's always going to be some business, some organization that is just, they are so far against the grain. They're on the complete opposite side of what the social norm is in terms of acceptance, right? You're always going to have a few in every industry. In the haunt industry, not really, because if you are bigoted against LGBTQ people, then guess what? You don't have artists, you don't have actors, you don't have anything. It's probably this industry probably has one of the largest collections of
people outside the norm.
Yeah, people outside of just heteronormativity. And that's really one. It's kind of surprising to me that they've all grouped into the haunted attraction industry, but at the same time it kind of makes sense, right? The freedom and creativity that it allows, that sort of thing. Not to stereotype and say that yeah, gay people are super creative. A lot of them are, right? But I'm sure there's some that aren't either. But the inclusion aspect, I think, is really huge, and I really love to see that. I think we need more of that in this world,
especially now.
Oh boy, especially now. I keep waking up hoping that a giant fucking meteor has hit us.
I like that the industry is one that's always pushing the boundaries and trying to find new ways to go about a scare or a new technology to incorporate. I think I jotted down a note to myself. Certainly you get walk around the corner jump scare, but it's throwing in things like you got a character who's on bungee cables and they're coming at you from an odd angle that you wouldn't expect anybody to be coming at you. And then they bounce back, they retract really quickly into the shadows. It's things like that that keep me going because I'm going to see something different and unique. I think friends of mine are always wondering, well, haven't you seen everything there is to see by now? And
no.
If every haunt did everything exactly the same way and every scare were exactly the same, then yeah, it would start to get boring for repeat customers. But no, finding different ways to go about the same scare, those are little things that I look for as I'm going through.
Yeah, and kind of following that same idea, what I like about both vendors and haunts themselves is the innovation and creativity that they both bring to the table. And some of this is out of necessity, right? Think as a vendor, if you make a mask or you make props or whatever, like you have to innovate to a degree. You have to be creative, because if you don't innovate and you don't make something that's new and novel, well, people are going to get bored of what you got and you're going to go out of business, right? So there is a necessity for, this novelty, but at the same time, exactly like what you said, if everybody was doing the same thing over and over all the time, well, yeah, it would get boring. And not only would it get boring for customers who would see it a couple of times ago, all right, this isn't changing, I'm not, whatever, and then everybody would be out of business. It gets boring for the haunts, right? It gets boring for the actor to do the same exact thing over and over and over, year after year after year. You don't want to do that. The haunt doesn't want that. You want new, creative things. So I love that, it seems like every year the boundary of what's possible just gets pushed a little further, a little further, a little further.
Exactly.
Through technology and through, somebody just has an idea and goes like, how do I make this happen in the scene? How do I make this thing a reality? Right? And that's all it takes is one person to really want to do it enough to make it a reality. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm the first person to do this. I'm going to sell this. I'm going to package this up and I'm going to make $1 million. Like, I love to see that sort of thing. I love seeing brand new, out of the box, like, wow, I've never seen that before.
Exactly. Whoever made the first laser swamp, right? I mean, we could look that up, I'm sure. But
good luck.
Now it's become popular in the last 10 years for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's things like that where it's like, it's a lot of people kind of had a similar idea of like, if I fill a room with fog and then I shoot a laser, somebody put two and two together there and was like, wait a minute, couldn't I just hide underneath the laser and you'd never see me because of how light and, physics, right?
Right.
And it just, somebody eventually did it and was like, oh man, that's super cool. And now everybody's doing it.
But again, coming up with creative ways to employ, I've seen, and I can't remember so many haunts. I've seen it done where the laser was done above, and so the actor leaned down out of the ceiling, and so,
That's
like,
so cool.
not out of the ceiling, but from above, and they surprise you.
That's so cool.
So
I'm just thinking like actor on a bungee that drops from the ceiling out of nowhere, like just out of the fog. Like, God, that'd be amazing.
That's the next one. If you're a haunt owner and you're looking for some way to fill a space, you can take that one from us right here.
Yeah, all checks can be made out to Bryan. I also take checks made out to Cash. I've already given out all my free ideas. So, if you want any more, like, that's fine, but, pay up. One of the last things that I've written here for what I love about this industry is the embracing of darkness, right? And I don't mean physical darkness, right? Haunts are dark and spooky, whatever. But I mean, embracing the dark side of life, of reality, right? You have to embrace death in some way when you run a haunt. You have to embrace that blood and gore and dead bodies and whatever. And I know not every haunt does. There are some that just, they don't do that at all. But a lot of them do. And I can't think of too many other places where it's acceptable to talk about the corpse in the other room. It's like, that's totally normal conversation when you work at a haunt. Oh, hey, go get the corpse out of the storage room, would you? Oh, yeah, and everybody knows what you're talking about. If anything, the question is which one, right? Now, again, you're a teacher. If I was a teacher and I worked with you and I said, hey, Vince, go get the corpse out of the storage room, would you? Like, there would be an investigation. There would be a lot of questions.
Well, I do teach anatomy physiology, so, we.
Oh, do you have like one of those big skeletons like on the rolling cart?
Do and the school has an actual skeleton that I pull out every now and then, but most of the time we're working with models. But
a skeleton is not a corpse.
No,
right?
No.
A corpse implies fleshy bits.
Definitely not that.
Do you do the frog dissection?
No, we don't dissect as much as we did 15, 20 years ago. with anatomy physiology, we dissect some organs, but they're like, a sheep brain or sheep heart, a cow's eye. So no human parts at all.
Yeah, no, I remember in high school we did the frog dissection. I could not get past the smell of the formaldehyde. It was too much for me. I couldn't get past the smell of the solution that they were kept in. Yeah, does it still stink to just like the worst stench you've ever smelled?
The preservatives always have a little bit of a smell to it, but I mean, more modern day science classrooms have a ventilation fan, so you can be pulling out a little bit of that smell anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I had to go to the library and do the one on the computer. I couldn't. I was not feeling well. I remember it was in 10th grade when I did that, and I was not feeling well that week as it was, and then our teacher was like, "We're dissecting frogs today," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna be sick." I couldn't do it. So what about haunts that check like all of the boxes, right? Like who's doing it right in almost every way, right? Vince, what do you got? Like what's your, if somebody says like what's one haunt you're gonna go to that is like just does everything right, what's your answer? Where are you going?
And that's a question that I always get. It's like, what out of everything that you've seen, what's the favorite one? And I always hesitate to say anything, but I would say Hell's Gate, but we got to save that because you're going to talk about, you stole that one from me. So
I stole nothing, sir. I had this written before you were on this episode.
Yeah, you did.
We can talk about Hell's Gate. You've probably got some things that you could add here.
I could add some into it probably.
I'll tell you what. I'll talk about what I love about Hell's Gate, and then you add whatever I'm missing here. So this is like the haunt that lives up to all of the rumors, right? You've heard about the haunt on top of the hill that's got the big slide. That's them. It really does have a giant slide at the end. I don't even think it's at the end. It's like in the middle of the haunt.
It's like 3/4 of the way through. But yeah. I say this, it's probably been 5 years since I've been there, so who knows what's changed.
Yeah, it was like kind of near the end, but it was definitely not like their last scene. I mean, their set builds. Oh my god, these set builds. Holy shit. Like, I know the joke in the industry is, yeah, I don't have John LaFlamboy money, but like, man, this is what John LaFlamboy money gets you. These are amazing builds.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, the props, the animatronics, they're like, they have unique props and animatronics at the very end. When I went, the finale scene, or like one of the finale scenes, was like this big room full of these massive dragon animatronics, right? And like maybe you've seen these at Ren fairs, that sort of thing, where, they have them like put way up because you can see it from like a mile away, and there's like a fog machine in them, and they spit like smoke or whatever. It's one thing to see it, from the ground and it's 30 feet above you. It's another thing to be in the same room, stood right next to the thing. These are gigantic. And like, and there's the sound to match, and then, and then they have like the Dragon Queen, and like, oh my god, it's such a good ending. Oh my god, like again, just these animatronics are huge. And then like also keeping in mind with the actors and all that, their actors are so well trained, right? Their opening scene in the main attraction, in the main house, is, the room with the twins. Everybody knows about the twins. And like they pack you into that room. There's like 50 people in there, and then the show starts, and the twins are up on the wall, they say their dialogue and they do their thing, and they're super fucking creepy. And then they fly across the room on a zip line. Like, holy shit, this is setting the tone.
That was amazing.
I love
the way that whole thing was done. The lightning effects. Ugh.
Yeah, and after, when we were out on their midway, we were talking to one of the Q actors out there. This Q actor was telling us that, like, oh yeah, the girls that play the twins, they are just like the absolute best of friends in real life. And I'm like, they have to be. You have to be best friends with this person if you're, because, they do like lines at the same time, and like, holy shit. What? Mm-hmm. God, what a start to a haunt. And then you have the whole rest of this attraction to walk through. And then what really stood out to me as like something that I wish more haunts would do is, when you're in the upstairs section and you're going down the hallway, right? So you're going like in one door and out the other. You're doing like the Scooby-Doo thing where like you go across the hall and you're like you're chasing the monster and whatever. I love the fact that like one, it really feels like you're going through the hallway of a mansion. But two, the music and the sound effects and the special effects that are happening while you're doing that actually add to the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like, oh, ambient, whatever, creepy noises. No, it's like this frantic music that, yeah, it makes you feel like you're in an episode of Scooby-Doo. Holy shit. Why aren't more haunts doing this, right? Your sound and your music should be adding to the story, right? And they have absolutely hit the nail on the head there. And then to top it all off, John LaFlamboy is a well-known supporter of Hunters Against Hate. This guy can't get any better. So what am I missing?
Oh, the only thing, again, assuming storyline hasn't changed in 5 years, I just remember, like initially, the theme was the darkness and the darkness taking over. And as you make your way through the haunt, there's more and more darker and darker makeup on the actors. So it's a progressive thing that you're seeing in the characters as you're moving through the haunt as well. I mean, it's
I seem to remember that.
Every detail. Every detail covered.
Yeah, I seem to remember that being the case. It's like, I love the change in elevation too, because you really do go upstairs and downstairs, right? Like they are using all of the elevation possible in this building. All right, Vince, I'll give you two in a row here, and we've been trading off back and forth on everything. I'll give you two in a row to talk about since I stole Hell's Gate from you.
As far as especially storyline goes, probably one of the haunts most enmeshed in a growing and an evolving storyline is Dread Hollow in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And if you look them up online, you can tell from their website, or I just remember there were character profiles. So like all the different weird characters that occupy this town, there's a little neat flip design. You know what they look like. You know what the little bit of the story behind them is. So you could get as enmeshed and as engrossed in the storyline as you want to get. Or you could just go to the haunt and not worry about a storyline at all and walk through and experience it. But they give you the opportunity to kind of do your homework before you go. And Dread Hollows, it's the name of their fictitious town, where all this terrible stuff goes on. And they do change up a significant amount of the haunt from year to year. And they evolve the storyline. They add some new characters into the mix, etc. When you go into the haunt, you almost feel like you're starting the haunt proper as you're walking through this inside queue line, but it actually is just a queue line. You'll actually eventually come up to a door and then wait to be admitted in groups into the haunt. But as you walk through, it's kind of like a little small town setting. There are a few characters that pop out and give you some startle scares here and there. There are some interactive things. I don't want to give away all their secrets, but like there's they've modified a vending machine, like a canned soda vending machine, and you push the button and you get an air blast from that.
That's cool.
So there's some fun things along the way before you even start the haunt proper as you're going through.
I like that. I like the interactive, Fright World in Buffalo had something similar, that they had like a porta-john set up, and it was like if you open the door, it kicked off this like little scene with sound and whatever. There was a skeleton or a corpse or something in there, and it was really funny. But I love interactive Easter eggs like that, where it's like if somebody went up and pushed the button, what's going to happen, right?
Well, I mean, somebody in every group got to do it, or if you've been through, you get the person who doesn't know what's going to happen to push the button. So It's a fun thing as you're moving through. And this is built in an old grocery store area, and so we're trying to figure through, because every time we've been through, there's been some cool, unique use of water. Like first, it was years back, but I think they had a witch, and it was supposed to be a storm going on, and you had water coming down from above, and so I'm assuming they've got like the butcher area or something like that, that was designed to be able to hold and drain water and stuff like that. So they don't shy away from that. It seems like there's always going to be some kind of little water use that shows up in the haunt. And it's all inside, but they have some probably as good or better than most haunts I've been through. Outdoor scenes, you can actually feel like you're outdoors when you're still inside. They're able to generate those kind of effects really well.
That's something that I really wish more haunts would take notes on. Is so, like, let me ask you a question. So when you say in an outdoor scene, like, you are still indoors, but you really feel like you're outdoors. So I'm guessing that, like, they found a way to drop the temperature, get a gentle breeze blowing through your hair. Like, you actually feel like you're outside. You can tell the difference.
I don't know if they're doing that or not, but like the lighting, they brought in enough branches, shrub parts, etc., that you feel like you're outside of a building temporarily.
Yeah, that's something that I want more haunts to start looking at, is when you have an indoor scene and you're telling me, hey, you're outdoors, right? Well, you've brought in branches and shrubs and you've got the lighting looking right, but like the environmental cues are still telling me I'm indoors. I'm not feeling that cool October breeze, right? I'm still sweating like a fucking pig because, yeah, I'm a fat kid that sweats a lot, right? So
with Dread Hollow last year, when we were through to do the review, there were 2 times that I turn around and there's an actor behind, and it's I've been through enough on it. It's kind of hard to sneak up on me like that. At one point, I even backtracked a little bit, like, where is the hidden door? Where did you come from? But they were able to do that so well. I mean, I got to give kudos to that. And it happened twice in one visit. So they have escape rooms that tie in. I think it's 3 different escape rooms that tie into the current year's storyline as well. They're a haunted attraction that seems to have a lot.
That's cool. I want to check that place out now.
Come on down to Tennessee. I'll have to go up to Tennessee. And then, of course, while we're in the Atlanta area, I mean, Netherworld is the haunt that people across the country know of by name. They are infamous for having extremely detailed, elaborate sets. And the latest in special effects, when you go through, it's just like, these are all the different kind of effects possible that you can have in a haunted house. So Netherworld they're in a big facility. It's a lengthy walk through the haunt itself, and they have 2, like, the main haunt. There's the main haunt, and then there's a second haunt that they occasionally change up the theme, and they probably have the most extensive midway of any of the haunts that I've been to. They have food vendors, probably are 4 or 5 really neat photo ops that are set up. They run a foam machine, so you can run and play in foam if you'd like to do that while you're there.
Now, I remember many, many years ago, many, many moons ago, before some of the people listening to this podcast were even born, I remember seeing Netherworld on a Travel Channel special.
Mm-hmm.
And the owners were talking about how, for their grand opening, they had, like, they put on this huge concert. So is that something they do regularly? Like, do they have, like, a big stage set up and host bands a lot? Or was that kind of, like, not anymore? Or
I think that may have been for the opening. I haven't seen anything like that in the Midway area. And then, they of course play music. No, I haven't seen live music there. Of course, creatures wander the Midway, and you get your picture made with various creatures while you're at it. I would say Netherworld is it's been around maybe the longest of the haunted attractions around the Atlanta area.
Yeah, because they've moved locations at least once.
Right.
They used to be just west of downtown, or just east of downtown. Now I think they're on the other side, or do I have it backwards?
So they were northeast of Atlanta,
That's right. Yeah.
off of Interstate 85, and you could see them from the interstate. But several years ago, they moved to a large location in Stone Mountain. I think they own the location there, so they've expanded out quite a bit.
So the last haunt that we're going to talk about, we're going back to Chicago. We're going to talk about Terror Roulette, who only ran for one season in Elgin, Illinois. Terror Roulette, I think, did so many things right. The location itself was a little weird, right? I understand some people are put off when you come across a haunt that's like in a strip mall, and I get it. It's not like what jumps out to you as like creepy place. But the night I went, you walk in and you get your ticket checked, whatever, and you go in and now you're in like this big like storefront. I think it used to be like a sub shop, or it was like a store of some sort, whatever it was. You walk in this big like storefront room, and it's set up like a bar room, right? So the queue line snakes back and forth. They're around like this pool table, and it brings you right up alongside the bar. And there's a bartender right there, right? And so he interacts with you. He talks to you. He's in character, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And so he offers you a drink, and you can choose to take the drink. You don't have to. And he'll ask, are there any allergies? If you're allergic to anything, just let them know, and he'll just tell you, like, step this way, please. They're not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do here, or anything that would be harmful to you. So if you decide to take the drink, he puts, these little disposable shot glasses down, little plastic shot glasses on the bar top, and then he grabs a rag out of a bucket of something from under the bar, brings up and wrings it out into the shot glasses. Now, it's a clean rag, and he puts on like these like dishwashing gloves before he grabs the rag, right? So he's not touching it with his hands or anything, but it's like they're like pink rubber gloves like that you would put on to do the dishes. So, he like wrings the dish rag out into the shot glasses, and then here you go, drink up. And I didn't do the shot because I can't have dairy. So the couple of people who did, they tried it, and they said it was just really salty. So we were talking to one of the staff members while we were waiting in line later about like what's in that drink, and the only thing they said is, to the best of my knowledge, it's a Gatorade base. And I'm like, so that explains why you guys thought it was salty.
You get your electrolytes that way.
Yeah, right. But it is salty, right? So it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense, right? So other than that, we don't know what's in there. So you wait in line, and then when it's your group's turn to go, and so by the way, like, atmosphere has been building all along. You're already getting the story. You went to the bar, you had a drink from the bartender, and now you go into the back room, right? And so now you go into like the back, like poker room, basically, right? It's back alley. You got to know a guy that knows a guy, sort of deal, to get in here. And so your group goes up to a poker table. They'll direct you to which one to go to. So the dealer, will give everybody this, plastic card that, is on a lanyard, and it goes around your neck. Mm-hmm. And he tells you this. He tells you a bit of lore, right? And so, like, the idea is, when you buy tickets, you tell them what everybody in your group is afraid of. So, like, the card that you get is supposed to represent your fear. I don't know how well that works in practice, because the person that bought the tickets for our group just put like spiders, and I'm like, that's not true of anybody in this group. So whatever, I don't know if it really worked out, if it really worked for us in practice, but I would love to see this place run for another season, and then get a group and actually put in what everybody's fears are, and see how well they can cater to that. But anyway, your group then goes, and you get in an elevator, and like, they drop you off at whatever floor, and it's the path that you go through. You are totally alone. You're not following another group. It's not a conga line. So they have not only found a way to tell everybody a unique story in a unique order based on their group specifically, they've figured out how to get the same throughput without it being a conga line haunt, right? Because you could take, let's say, 3 groups, and they each start in a different scene. No group sees each other. So all of these all of these groups are just doing their own thing in different orders. And then it all culminates down to basically the same ending. And so everybody's getting there at a different time. And the finale scene is something that I think is just so cool. Going back to what I love about the industry, I love the innovation, I love the creativity. Their finale scene was your group goes into like this, it's the small little room, and I think it's supposed to be an elevator, right? Because the idea is you're still like in the basement, and the elevator is supposed to take you back up to the main, ground level. And instead of doing that, there's a fog machine and there's a speaker in there, and the speaker plays, this like dialogue, and it's like, now that you've seen what you've seen, we can't let you out alive, yada, yada, yada. And the fog machine kicks on, and it's like you're being gassed to death. It's not a huge, big, loud scare at the end, but my God, did it bring the story to a finale. It brought the story to an end, just like very succinctly. And it
by bringing you to an end, right?
Right. And like, how unique is that as a finale?
That is unique.
You don't have to do a huge scare here because it doesn't fit with the rest of the story you're telling. And it's all interactive and they can touch you, and like they have found this really nice middle ground that's borderline full touch, but it's not quite an extreme haunt, right? A lot of haunts do touch and a lot of haunts do full touch. And the haunts that do, this full contact sort of thing, they're bordering on being extreme haunts, right? They're tasing you, they're suffocating you, they're whatever, right? They're doing a lot of stuff to you. And Terror Roulette was able to toe that line of full contact without it going overboard into the extreme haunt category. I would call this place, if this place were an extreme haunt, it would be extreme light, right? Because It wasn't every scene where they would like grab you and do stuff or whatever, but like, yeah, there was like an electric shock scene that we did. There was one where somebody in our group, Tiffany, actually, she got shoved onto a medical bed, chair or something. And then the actor in that scene took, this comically large syringe with no needle on it, but there was colored water in there, and he like stuck it up to her arm and he pushed the plunger down, and it was like, yeah, some of it was kind of comical, but at the same time, it's like they're really doing some stuff too. Like they are giving you a little bit of they're going more than just like the brushing your shoulder, touching your hair, whatever. They're going more than that very light touch approach. I loved everything about what they were doing. This is another one that they didn't really have too much of a midway, and I think that was just due to the fact of like where they were specifically. But like, man, they hit every box for me.
And the real shame is they only did it for a year.
Yeah, my understanding is that the place where they were at, the leasing company that for that strip mall, just I guess didn't want them there for whatever reason. I don't know. That's what I've heard. I could be way off here, but like, man, I really wish I could see them open up in a new location that maybe they own, and just be able to do cool shit like this. I would love to see where they end up in 5 years if they're allowed to, if they can just do this show.
Well, who knows? Maybe they will pull things together and happen upon a new location and re-emerge.
Yeah, I really hope so, right? So I realize we've gone a little bit long here. Vince, you got anything else you want to add?
I don't know what I could add to this.
Be positive, people. And if you find being positive is too difficult, grab that skin around the side of your mouth and stretch it out and turn it into a smile.
Well, I would I would say, obviously, we go to so many different haunts for fun and unique experiences. So, yeah, it's not all certainly talk about what everybody's doing wrong. Lots of places are doing things right, and they're making for a very fun experience. That's what keeps us going.
It really is. Like you said, we go to so many haunts, and look, I get it. It is absolutely something that we have to actively try to remain positive, but when you see haunts like the ones that we've talked about today, you remember why you love this industry. You remember why why you're a reviewer. You remember why you're doing this, right? So, I encourage every haunt to, if you ever get the chance to see another show and you see something that you're like, wow, that's super fucking cool, steal that shit. That's art, baby. That's do you think? I mean, like look at every great guitar player, right? Somebody else was the inspiration for them, right? Their style is not unique to them. They are not truly novel in every way that everything that they do. Every musician, every artist, every creative ever has had inspiration. So to be a great haunt, you have to take inspiration from what others are doing extraordinarily well. The next time you see something amazing, make a note of that and then go, how do I do that in my own style?
Exactly.
Steal that shit. Make it your own. So, yeah, again, this has been a bit of a longer episode, and I think that's a good thing. The fact that we go over schedule talking about shit we love. You can find us over on thescarefactor.com, and it's at The Scare Factor on basically every platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all those. I don't know if we're on Blue Sky yet. I think some of the teams are on Threads. I am. You can check me out at Skelegore Reviews on Threads, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Not TikTok. I don't do that shit. Vince, where can people find you?
Oh, Team Skulleton Crew on Facebook. Give us a follow there. And of course, at home base, thescarefactor.com.
That's right. So you check out the website, thescarefactor.com, to read reviews, find haunts, and check out the newest section, Spooky Spots, where you'll find fun and spooky places to go all year round. We're actually in the middle of doing a facelift on the website. It's looking amazing. I love where it's going. I think you're going to love it too. This podcast is available wherever you're listening to it: YouTube, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Deezer, Player FM, and Podcast Index. The Scare Factor is now an affiliate of FrankenFuel, energy drinks for weirdos like you. Yes, you. You can get 15% off your order today by going to frankenfuel.com/scarefactor or by clicking the affiliate link in the show's description. FrankenFuel. Wake the dead, fuel the living. We have been Bryan of Team Skelegore,
Vince of Team Skulleton Crew,
and this has been Scare Factor Podcast. Stay scary.